Have you ever walked up to a house that looked completely normal? The kind of place where nothing ever seems to go wrong, but for some reason your chest feels tight, like something is quietly warning you to leave. That night, everything looked exactly how it should have been. Calm street, warm lights, peaceful silence. But sometimes, the most normal places are hiding something you're not meant to understand. And once you notice it, it's already too late to ignore.
The address was 4782 Brookfield Lane. I had been delivering food for months, and this neighborhood was one of the easiest. People were polite, the streets were safe, and nothing strange ever happened there. So when I pulled up that night around 10:15, I didn't hesitate. It felt like just another routine delivery, one of hundreds I had already done without a second thought.
The house itself looked perfect. Warm yellow light glowing through the windows, a wreath hanging neatly on the door, everything calm and still. It was the kind of place that made you feel like people inside were safe, like nothing dark could exist behind that door. And that's exactly why what happened next never made sense to me. When the door opened, a woman in her mid-30s stood there. She looked tired, like she'd had a long day, but she gave a small, polite smile. Before I could even say the total, she handed me two $20 bills. The order wasn't even that much. It was a generous tip, but something about how quickly she gave it to me felt strange, like she wasn't really focused on the food at all. Just as I turned to leave, she stopped me and asked me to wait while she checked the order. She stepped back inside, leaving the door slightly open. From where I stood, I could see a narrow hallway with family photos on the wall and worn carpet on the floor. Everything inside looked normal, but the longer I stood there, the more uncomfortable I started to feel, like I was waiting for something I didn't understand. After a few minutes passed, I pulled out my phone, trying to pass the time. That's when I heard it. A voice from deeper inside the house. At first, I thought it was a TV, but then I heard her again, speaking softly, like she was talking to someone. And then I heard another voice respond, a man's voice, low, quiet, but real. And that's when I realized she wasn't alone. The voices got slightly louder, not yelling, but intense, like a serious conversation happening just out of sight. I stood there frozen, trying to remember if I had seen anyone else when she first opened the door. I was almost sure I hadn't, and yet now it sounded like there had been someone inside the whole time, waiting just out of view. Then suddenly, everything went quiet. The voices stopped. The footsteps started coming back toward the door. When she stepped out again, something was different. Her face had completely changed. The small smile was gone, replaced by a blank, emotionless stare. She looked at me, then at my car, then back at me again, like she was trying to figure something out that didn't make sense. Then she said something that I still hear in my head to this day. Why are you still alive? She didn't sound scared. She didn't sound angry. She sounded confused, like I wasn't supposed to be standing there. Before I could even react, she stepped back and slammed the door. I heard the locks click into place, and then one by one, the lights inside the house started turning off until everything went completely dark. I stood there for a moment, staring at the empty house, trying to understand what just happened. My phone buzzed, showing the order was complete. 5 stars, tip confirmed, everything normal. But nothing felt normal anymore. Even now, after thousands of deliveries, I still check the address twice when I pull up to a quiet house at night, just to make sure I never end up back at 4782 Brookfield Lane again. Have you ever felt someone watching you? Not in a normal way, but in a way that makes your body tense before your mind even understands why. Like something about their attention feels wrong, too focused, too interested. That night started like any other delivery, but within seconds of that door opening, I knew I wasn't dealing with a normal customer, and I needed to get out of there as fast as possible. I had been working pizza deliveries for months, and I knew which areas to avoid after dark. This neighborhood wasn't the worst, but it wasn't somewhere you wanted to stay too long either. When I pulled up just after 9 p.m., the house looked simple. One floor, pale yellow siding, nothing unusual, but something about how quiet it was made the whole place feel off. I walked up the cracked pathway, trying to ignore the feeling in my chest. Before I could even knock, the door opened. Not slowly, not casually, it just opened instantly, like the person inside had been standing there the whole time, waiting, watching, knowing exactly when I would arrive. The man standing there looked around 50. His clothes were messy, his hair thin, and his glasses made his eyes look bigger than they should have been. He smiled when he saw me, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It felt forced, stretched, like he was trying too hard to look normal and failing. When I told him the total, he didn't respond right away. Instead, he just stared at me, slowly looking me up and down in a way that made my skin crawl. Then he started asking questions, personal questions. My age, if I had a boyfriend, where I lived. Each question came a little closer than the last, like he was slowly stepping into my space on purpose. I tried to keep things professional, asking for payment, hoping to end the conversation quickly. But he moved slowly, too slowly. He pulled out his wallet without breaking eye contact, making comments about how I looked, how my clothes fit, things no stranger should ever say. The longer I stood there, the more I realized he wasn't just talking, he was testing how long I would stay.
When he finally handed me the money, he didn't let go right away. His fingers stayed on my hand, cold and damp, holding just a second too long. Then his voice changed, softer, quieter. He told me he was lonely, that his wife had passed away, and for a moment it almost sounded like a normal conversation until he leaned in closer and asked me to come inside.
He pointed into the house, but I couldn't see anything beyond the doorway, just darkness. He said he wanted to show me something valuable, something I could have if I just came inside for a minute. The way he said it made my stomach drop. It didn't feel like an offer. It felt like a trap that had been waiting for me to say yes. I didn't argue. I didn't ask questions. I just handed him the pizza and turned around and ran. Behind me, his voice changed instantly. It got louder, angrier. He started shouting, accusing me, calling me names, saying I led him on. By the time I reached my car, I could hear his footsteps getting closer, faster, right behind me. I locked the doors just in time. He reached the car and slammed his hands against the window, his face pressed against the glass, eyes wide and full of anger. He shouted that he knew where I worked, that he would find me. I drove away as fast as I could, my hands shaking the entire time. Even now, I still think about how close I was to stepping inside that house and how easily I might not have walked back out. What if you accepted a delivery and the location alone made you hesitate? Not because it was far, not because it was dangerous, but because it simply didn't make sense. And even though every instinct told you to cancel it, you still went through with it, only to realize later that some places aren't meant for the living to visit, especially not at night. The order came in close to midnight. 1 pizza, some sides, and a drink. Nothing unusual until I saw the delivery address, Oak Hill Old Cemetery. I stared at my phone for a few seconds, thinking it had to be a mistake or some kind of joke, but the app confirmed everything. Cash on delivery. And at that moment, I needed the money more than I trusted my instincts. The drive there felt longer than it should have been. Street lights became fewer, the roads grew quieter, and the town slowly disappeared behind me. By the time I reached the entrance, the large iron gates were already open, as if someone had been expecting me. That was the first moment I considered turning around, but I didn't.
As I drove inside, the gravel path crunched under my tires, echoing louder than it should have in the silence. My headlights passed over rows of old headstones, some leaning, some barely readable. The deeper I went, the more it felt like the outside world had disappeared, like I had driven into a place where time didn't move the same way. I was just about to turn around when I saw him, a man standing near a small mausoleum, waving at me like he had been waiting. That alone didn't feel right. No one casually waits in a place like that, not at that hour. But I stopped anyway, grabbed the order, and stepped out into the cold, quiet air. As I got closer, I noticed something was off. His breathing was heavy, uneven. His face looked pale under the dim light, and there was a strange tension in the way he moved. He took the food, but instead of paying right away, he just stared at me, like he was trying to decide something. Then I noticed his hands. They were covered in something dark. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at, until I saw it dripping onto the ground. I tried not to react, telling myself there had to be a normal explanation, but the silence around us made it feel like there wasn't. Before I could say anything, I heard movement behind the mausoleum. Another man stepped out slowly, struggling to walk, using the wall to hold himself up. Something about the way he moved didn't look right. His breathing sounded weak, strained, and the way both of them avoided explaining anything made the situation feel even worse. That's when I realized I needed to leave, not ask questions, not wait for answers, just leave. I turned and rushed back to my car, my heart pounding louder with every step. Behind me, their voices called out, asking me to come back, their tone shifting from calm to desperate in seconds. And just as I drove off, I felt something under my tire, something I didn't stop to check. I didn't stop driving until I reached the main road, but even then something followed me, not physically, but mentally. The smell in my car wouldn't go away, the memory wouldn't fade. And when the police told me they found nothing at that location, no people, no signs of anyone being there, that's when it became something worse than fear. Because if nothing was there, then who or what did I just meet? If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe my channel. See you on next videos. Till then, goodbye.